So, today we'll be discussing the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter entitled the Purushtama Yoga, or Yoga of the Supreme Person. Yeah. So in the previous chapter, the Triguna Yoga, describing how the living entity is entangled by the three modes of material nature, and Krishna elaborately giving description about what are the symptoms, what are the characteristics of a person who is influenced by the three modes of material nature. And ultimately, Krishna described toward the end that we have to surpass the three modes of material nature. Yeah, Sagunan Samatidhyaitan. How? By Ananya Bhakti. Yeah. Mamchayo Avya Vicharina Bhakti. So Avya Vicharina Bhakti means pure devotional service. And Krishna gives the clue there toward the end of the chapter by saying that if a person knows Krishna as the Adibhuta, Adidaiva, and Adijagya, yeah, so he will be free from the three modes of material world's entanglement, yeah, the three modes of material nature. So the connection between chapter 14 and 15. So we start the chapter 15 by Krishna describing the structure of the material world. He gives the allegory, yeah, of the material world like the aswatam enam suvirudam. So as a banyan tree, but this banyan tree is actually an upside down tree, yeah. Urdhva mulam adasakam aswatam prahur avaya. So urdhva mula means the root is upward. Yeah? And then the three modes of material nature is giving nourishment, giving nourishment to this material banyan material tree. Yeah. And that's how it's connected, because chapter 14 describing about three modes of material nature in detail. And this chapter starts by Krishna's explanation about the three of the material world, in which actually the three modes of material nature is the watering process, kind of watering process, which gives nourishment. And Krishna will describe about how to break down this entanglement of the three modes of material nature, yeah, by Asanga Shastri, by detachment and fully surrender to Krishna. And then Krishna again will describe about the transmigration of the jiva. Yeah, of course, we already study this transmigration of the jiva in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna here explain again, because there are some people still bewildered, yeah, of the transmigration of the jiva. Krishna will touch that aspect a little bit, and he further explained that he's the maintainer of this creation, material creation. And then Krishna also touched the aspect of Vedanta Sutra, yeah, the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. And at the end, Krishna will describe that those who know Krishna, that means they know everything. Yomam evam asamudo janati purushotama sasarvavid bhajanti. So knowing Krishna means not simply knowing that, yes, this is Krishna, he's a blue-collar person, yeah, but knowing Krishna means sasarvavid bhajantimam sarva bhavena, means person will worship Krishna with sarva bhava, means with full bhava, emotion, with full love to Krishna. So that's the meaning of knowing Krishna. Yeah. So ultimately, knowing Krishna means to develop our love for Krishna, to worship him with full bhava, yeah, with full emotion, with full love. And when a person engage in devotional service, actually there is nothing more to be achieved. So in that way, actually knowing Krishna means knowing everything. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we don't need to study anything else. But that's actually the summit, the peak of knowledge, which is surrender to Krishna. So that is the synopsis of the chapter. We will see this chapter in detail. Yeah, yoga of the Supreme Person. Chapter 14 describes the modes of nature, those forces that restrict and control a soul within his field of activities. Now Krishna, using the allegory of an aswata or banyan tree, describes the entire material world with its varieties of field of activities situated on the higher and lower branches of that tree. So this is the breakdown of the discussion. Text number 1 to 5, becoming detached from the material world. And then text 6 to 11 will describe about transmigration of the living entities. So we open this discussion by seeing this section of Srila Prabhupada's purport from text number 1. I put it in the beginning because that's kind of giving us a hint about the chapter. Yeah. Prabhupada said, in the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. So, of course, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, we'll find that almost in every of the end of the chapter, Krishna is describing about bhakti. Yeah, bhakti is the only means by which we can cut through the material knot, yeah, the material entanglement. Yeah, and as Krishna mentioned also in the beginning of chapter 7, Yatha Gyasyasi Tatrinu, how bhakti starts by Tatrinu, by listening, yeah, by hearing, Maya Sakta Mana Partha, how we can attach our mind to Krishna, Yoga Yunjan Madasraya, how we can connect it always in yoga and surrender to Krishna, Madasraya, yeah. Asangsayam Samagramam, Krishna says Asangsaya means there is no doubt, but how? To start Tatrinu, by hearing, yeah. Actually, this is confirmed in many there are many evidences, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how by hearing one develops bhakti to Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, detachment. There are two things Prabhupada mentioned: detachment from material world and then attachment to Krishna. Yeah. So sasradadana shavivardamana viraktim anyatra karoti. So when one hears with full shraddha, sasradadana shavivardamana, hear the Krishna Katha with full faith, full attention, the first thing happened, viraktim anyatra karoti. Virakti means detachment. One becomes detached from the material world, and then Hari Pada Anusmriti Nivritasya. One becomes attached to Lord Hari. Hari Pada Anusmriti means constantly thinking about Krishna. Anusmriti. Smriti means thinking. Anusmriti means constantly thinking. Yeah. So these two things happen automatically when a person engages in just hearing with full attention, yeah, about Krishna Katha. So we start text number 1. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Urdhva Mula Madasakam Aswatam Prahur Avyayam Chandansi Yasya Paranani Yastam Veda Saveda. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down. Yeah, Ujwamulam Adasaka. And whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada. The entitlement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called leaves of this tree. These trees' roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. Yeah. So if you see this picture, water is compared to our desire. Yeah. So the real tree is the spiritual world, and then the material tree, the material world is compared to this tree which is upside down with the root on the top. Yeah. So in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada explained where we experience this kind of tree in real life, meaning in the material world. Have we seen that a tree has his root upward? Prabhupada said, no, we can experience it, we can see it uh, by seeing a tree standing on the banks of a lake or a river. Yeah, we see only the reflection of the tree. So this material tree is just the exact replica of the real tree, which is the spiritual world. Therefore, just like we see in the front of the mirror ourselves, yeah, when we raise our right hand, so we see actually that person in front of me is raising his left hand. Yeah, if we see in the mirror, yeah. So it's just exact opposite, but it looks the same, but it is the opposite things. Yeah. So similarly, this tree also like that. Yeah. The tree on the bank of a lake, for example. Yeah, we see everything exactly the same, but it's just the opposite. Urdhva mula madhasakam. Yeah. The root up, the branch down. And Srila Prabhupada also gives an analogy, just like milk touched by tamarind. What happened? The milk becomes yogurt, turns into yogurt. So similarly, that prema in the spiritual world, as soon as it goes down here to the material world, it becomes lust, it becomes kama. So what people call as love in this material world is actually simply kama, but they think it is love because its origin is actually love. But when it's contaminated with the three modes of material nature, it becomes lust. Yeah. So it's just exactly the opposite things of the spiritual world. And then this water, which give the reflection, is the desire. Yeah, Krishna explained icha dvesa samutena. So this icha or material desire, sarge yanti parantapa, is the cause of why we are sent down here. Yanti means destined. We are destined here in the material world because of this material desire. Because in the spiritual world, one cannot exhibit material desire because everything completely spiritual, transcendental. So Krishna has given us a place in which actually we can exhibit our material desire, material tendency. So that water is our material desire, in which actually this tree can be reflected. Yeah. Why we are here? Because of this desire, material desire. Material desire means desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. Yeah. And text number 2, the continuation of the description of the tree. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. Yeah. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and this tree bound to the productive actions of human society. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. The tendencies toward piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary system. After one enjoys the result of the virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or productive activities for promotion. This planet of human being is considered the field of activities. Yeah. So that is the the law here. Yakshine Punya Martial Shanti. As soon as our material piety is finished, so we have to come down again. We are enjoying the upper planetary system in the Swarga Loka. And then as soon as the piety is finished, we have to come down here. We have to work. Mm. We have to work, get the money, and enjoy holiday again. Yeah, just like I'm a foreigner here in India, so I have a visa. So as soon as my visa is finished, I have to go back to my country of origin and then make another visa, and then I can enter India again. So that's the law here. We just keep going up and up and down. Yeah. So the three modes of material nature is nourishing. They are nourishing the material world. Yeah, because the Daiva Prakriti, it is Krishna's energy who is actually running, the material world, maintaining the material world. Text number 3 and 4. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. Yeah. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Yeah, Asanga Sastrena Dridena. Drida means with determination. Like Dridavrata means person who has great determination. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So here, Asanga Sasena means by the weapon of detachment. The word Asanga is very important in this connection because the attachment for sense enjoyment and alluring it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion in the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is surrender to Him. You see, as um, that sloka that I quoted in the beginning, that's actually from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah? Sasradadana Shavivardhamana, that verse. Yeah. So one must hear with Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. Sasradhadana means with full attention. That's how Srila Prabhupada gives the word per word translation. Yeah. Sashradadana means with full attention. Unless one have faith, one will not hear with full attention. Yeah. So detachment is the weapon by which we can cut through this material entanglement. And as Srila Prabhupada clearly mentioned here, one must surrender, surrendering to Krishna. Yeah. So we have to hear from the authoritative person, yeah, from a bona fide person, from a devotee. Yeah, a devotee means one who carries Lord Mukunda within their heart. Yeah. Yat sangalabdham nijavirya vaibhavam tirtamuhu samsprishatam himanasam haratyajunta srutibir gato angajam. So haratyajunta srutibir gato angajam kovaina seveta mukunda vikrama. So that verse explaining kovaina seveta mukunda. Who will not hear the glorification of Lord Mukunda? Because simply by hearing in the yat sangalabdham nijavirya vaibhavam, in the association of a person who has a love for Lord Mukunda himself. Yeah. So actually the verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the speaker, such as Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, they are so poetic. You know, the way how Srila Prabhupada also translate this sloka is also very poetic. You hear the narration of Lord Mukunda from a person who carry Lord Mukunda within their heart. Yeah. So that will give you liberation. It is not that we simply hear about Lord Mukunda, about Lord Krishna, but we have to choose from the person, yeah, from a bona fide person from whom we have to hear. Srila Prabhupada, when it comes to the topic of hearing, he many times mentioned about the Bhagavad Saptaha, which is conducted by the so-called devotees. Yeah. They are not devotees, but they conduct the Bhagavad Saptaha just to attract people to listen from them and then collect some money. And most of the time, these people, they immediately jump to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is describing about the Rasa Lila of Lord Krishna with the gopis, which is actually not at all recommended by Srila Prabhupada unless and until we study scrutinizedly the first up to the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, otherwise that hearing simply sentiment. And most of the speakers, which are non-devotees, they are aiming toward the impersonal aspect of the Lord understanding, that understanding. Yeah, it's happened actually. I think it's about 7 years ago. I had a friend in Hyderabad. So in Hyderabad, so there was one kind of Babaji from Vrindavan. So he came to Hyderabad. So he's conducting the Bhagavad Saptaha. Then uh, my friend, many devotees actually already warned him, don't go there, don't go there. But this devotee said that, oh, it's okay, Prabhuji. After all, it's about Krishna. It's all about Krishna. And then we said, okay, just be careful because the speaker is not real devotee. And then he went for the first, second, third, fourth day. He said that, wow, this is so amazing. This is so great. And then on the fifth day, the speaker started explaining, yes, this Krishna is very attractive. But even more attractive than this Krishna is actually the impersonal aspect of Lord Krishna. And then he started realizing that, oh yeah, actually, this is very dangerous. Yeah, because as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned, Mayavada Bhasha Simile Hoi Sarvanas. If a person hears or read the commentary, especially of the Bhagavad Gita from Mayavadi, yeah, Hoi Sarvanas, all his bhakti will be destroyed. So it's not simply about hearing Krishna Katha, but also we choose the person from whom we hear. Yeah. So yes, attachment is the weapon to cut through the material entanglement. How detachment start? By devotional service, and devotional service begins from hearing. Yeah, Shravanam, from hearing. Text number 5. Yeah, this is the description on the eligibility. Yeah, eligibility to enter the spiritual world, actually. Yeah, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain that real kingdom. Yeah. So Krishna is explaining here, starting from Nirmana. Nirmana means free from false prestige. Nirmana moha ajita sangha. Ajita sangha means false association. Nirmana moha illusions. Yeah. Nirmana moha ajita sangha dosa. Srila Prabhupada said, the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So nirmana means false prestige or false pride. Yeah. This is actually the biggest hindrance to surrender to Krishna. Yeah. Pride. We see actually, even in the life of great devotees, when their heart, their mind is bewildered by sense of pride, immediately they will fall down. Yeah. For example, like Indra, mm, Brahma. Yeah. These are all great personalities. These are all great devotees. But due to some sense of pride, they offended even the Lord Himself. Yeah. Like Brahma, like Indra, yeah. Bali Maharaj. Yeah. Bali Maharaj is a great devotee. Indra is a great devotee. Brahma is a great devotee. Yeah. So pride is, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here. Yeah. The first qualification, one should not be deluded by pride. So if we develop these qualities, then we can surrender to Krishna and enter to his kingdom. Yeah. So this is the surrendering process. And this is a brief description about the spiritual kingdom. Yeah, because Krishna in the text number 5, he's mentioning, even text number 3 and 4 also he mentioned that one must enter that place, the eternal place, yeah, the spiritual world. Text number 5, Natad Basayate Suryo Nasa Sanko Napavakaha Yadgatva Na Nivartante Tadhama Param. The supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, is described here in the spiritual sky. There's no need of sun sign, moon sign, fire, or electricity because all the planets are self-luminous. As long as a living entity is in his dark material world, he's in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the Lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if one takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. So sometimes the devotee is asking me like this, Krishna says, Natad Vasayati Suryo Nasa Sampurna Bhava. So in the spiritual world, there's no need of sun, moon, fire, electricity. Yeah. Then does it mean that the sun also not existing in the spiritual world? Yeah, because all the planets are self-luminous. Yeah, because Krishna's effulgence illuminating the entire place. So that means in Goloka Vrindavan there is no sun, there is no moon. Well, the answer is that there is. There is sun, there is moon, there is day, there is night in Goloka Vrindavan. Otherwise, how can Krishna perform his eternal pastimes with the gopas, with the gopis? Yeah. But the understanding is that they are not depending on the sunlight, on the moonlight, on the fire, on electricity, as how we do in the material world. Yeah, we need the sun. Yeah, we need the moon to nourish our vegetation. Yeah, the fruits, the vegetables, the trees, they're nourished. The taste of the fruit uh, is actually nourished by Chandra, by moon, and sun also helps all the living entities to be nourished, giving vitamin D, for example, and then fire to cook, and electricity. Yeah, we are very much depending on electricity. But in the spiritual sky, it is not that these elements they don't exist. They do exist, but the residents of the spiritual world they don't depend on that. Yeah? They don't depend. And Srila Prabhupada, interestingly, toward the end, mentioning that yes, for a person who is very much attached to the material world, it is very difficult to cut through this attachment. But it is possible by taking up the Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So it is a gradual process. It is a gradual process by which actually that's the surest process to get the detachment is Krishna consciousness. Some people may try to be detached, just like the Mayavadis. They try to be detached, but later on they will come back again to the materialistic activities. Yeah, because they don't engage properly in bhakti. Just like we try to stop the senses, but without engaging the senses in the positive activities of devotional service, then the senses will act negatively. Srila Prabhupada once in a lecture, he mentioned, just like if I simply order you, don't eat this, don't eat that, this is prohibited. You should not eat meat. You should not eat garlic, onions, this and that. You know. But at the same time, I don't provide you nice food. Then what you will do after some time, yeah, now you can stop eating, but after some time you become hungry. And because I don't provide you nice food, yeah, which is recommended, then you will eat whatever you want again. So that's happened with the senses also. And that's happened with the engagement also. Simply trying to become detached by being non-active, yeah, that doesn't help unless one engage in devotional service, in the positive activities. Yeah, yeah. And Krishna mentioned, Yadgatvana Nivartante, those who have reached Krishna's abode will never return. Yeah. will never return. And this is a classic verse, yeah, about the jiva, yeah, jiva tattva. Mama evam jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastan indriyani prakriti stani karasati. So up to text number 6, yeah, Krishna already described about the entanglement of the jiva and then how to become free from this entanglement, yeah, by asanga sasena, by detachment. Detachment can take place only through devotional service. And this part of the chapter from 7 to 11 will be describing about the transmigration of the soul. Yeah. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Yeah. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Eternally, it is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnurata and the secondary expansions are called the living entity. The words Mama Ivam Saha, or fragmental parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter, which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word sanatana, eternal, is used. So Srila Prabhupada is defeating, Srila Prabhupada is defeating the Mayavadi philosophy here. Yeah, the Mayavada philosophy, where the understanding that now the jiva is assuming the material form, and after the jiva comes out from the material form, they will become one with Krishna. Just like uh, we see like a bike or a car, it has some spare parts. Sometimes it can be separated and then joined together again. But that's not the matter with the jiva because the jiva is sanatana, eternal. It is eternally part and parcel of Krishna, and the jiva has his his own individuality eternally. Yeah, eternally. So, and then as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, it is not just like broken part of some material. Yeah. If you see, for example, in a bike or in a car, again, I'm giving this example, like when you separate the part of that bike or that car, so it becomes incomplete. That part becomes incomplete. You know? But in the case of the jiva remains complete in itself. Yeah, Satchit Ananda. So this quality is possessed incomplete. Yeah, the only matter is that it's just different quantity with Krishna. But when we talk about the quality, it's remain complete. Yeah, and the jiva is always pure. Actually, the contamination start when the jiva falsely identifying himself with the material body. Manasastan indriyani. Krishna mentioned Manasastan indriyani. The jiva becomes illusion and struggle with the six senses, including the mind. Yeah, most of the time we are struggling due to our mind. Due to our mind. When we're able to control our mind, actually we are in a safe position. amongst the three types of kleshas. Yeah, Adidaiva, Adibhautika, and Adhyatmika. Adhyatmika is the biggest factor of our miseries, suffering which is caused by our own mind. That's the biggest factor of our miseries. Yeah. If we remain sober, despite of anything happen, uh, the Adidaiva and Adibhautika klesa may happen, but if we have steady mind, we will not experience so much suffering. But when the mind is very weak, little trouble, one mosquito bite will give you very much suffering. You become so upset because of that. Yeah. But a person who is steady in mind, so it doesn't matter whatever happened, he remains sober, yeah, undisturbed. Yeah. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram, so amritatvaya kalpate. Text number 8. The living entity in the material world carries his different conception of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada said, here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minded independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends on him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. Yeah, I think this concept is clear to all of us here. Yeah. So, yam yam vapi smaran bhava tyajatante kaleva. So whatever state of mind a person has when he is giving up the body, so that state will he get in the next life. Yeah. So as Srila Prabhupada mentioned in his purport very nice, if one has dull consciousness, that means that is an indication that he wants to become a dog. Yeah. So the jiva here also known as Ishwara, but in what sense? In the minute sense, because Krishna gives the minute independency. So we exhibit that tendency of being the Ishwara because Krishna is Ishwara and we are the Jiva Amsa, yeah, as it is mentioned in the previous text. We are the Jiva Amsa, part and parcel of Krishna. So naturally we inherit Krishna's quality as the Ishwara. So Srila Prabhupada explained also here very nicely Ishvara in what sense? That we have the control over our own body and we have the control over on what next life we want to be, depending on our tendency. Our tendency is the exhibition of our desire of what we want to become in the next body. Yeah, and Prabhupada mentioned here, if one in Krishna consciousness, he will transfer to Krishna Loka and associate with Krishna. So we become Krishna's associate. We're not becoming one with Krishna, but we become Krishna's associate. Yeah. Text number 9. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtain a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. In other words, Prabhupada explained, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs. In his next life, he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. Yeah, consciousness, just like water. The jiva also just like water. You see, Srila Prabhupada also gave a nice analogy. If we observe actually the rainwater, yeah, if you observe the rainwater, which actually comes down from the sky, uh, before this rainwater touches the ground, this rainwater is pure, yeah, transparent, very clean. You can even drink the rainwater. Yeah, in some places, I think here also they do, maybe in India, but I know some in Indonesia, in a dry place. So they would harvest the rainwater. Yeah, they would harvest the rainwater, and using that water, they even cook. They cook, they drink. Yeah, so rainwater is pure, but when it touches the ground, it becomes muddy. And what happened? The color changed now, brown color, because of the association of the mud. So similarly, the jiva or the consciousness also like that. The jiva is originally pure. As soon as the jiva associates himself with the material nature, uh, with the three modes of material nature, it becomes contaminated. It becomes colored. Yeah, either by sattva gun, rajagun, tamogun, or mix. Yeah. Therefore, Krishna mentioned in the 13th chapter, Karanam guna sangosha sadasad yoni janmasu. Depending on the modes one's associate, yeah, Karanam guna sanga, sad asad yoni janmasu. He will take birth, sad asad, whether in the good family or bad family, in the human body or in the animal's body, depending on Karanam guna sangasha. Guna sanga, or the association of the modes of material nature, is the cause. Yeah, karana means the cause. The cause why we take birth in the animal kingdoms, why we take birth in the demigods uh, life. Yeah, amongst the demigods, that's depend on the guna. Yeah. Hmm. Udva gachanti sattvasta. Udva gachanti sattvasta. If a person associate with the mode of goodness, he will live in the amongst the demigods. Udvaga chanti satvasta. Madhye tinta distanti rajasa. Those who are in Rajaguna, they situated in the middle part of the planetary system. And then Adoga chanti tamasa. Darkness will go down. So the jiva, the consciousness is pure as long as soon as its association it's associated with the three modes of material nature, it becomes contaminated. Text number 10. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one, but one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Yeah, this is called the jnana chaksu. Yeah, the change of the body uh, sees actually differently by a devotee and non-devotee. The non-devotee, they're bewildered by this change. Yeah. But the devotee, yeah, vimuda nanupashyant, means they don't understand the science of transmigration of the body, of the jiva to different bodies. But pashyanti jnana chakshusha. But a person trained in knowledge can see this clearly. Yeah. The word jnana chakshusha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity lives his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. So the science of transmigration is fully understood by devotees. Yeah. Jnana Chakshusha. Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha. Sometimes people thinking that why God is so unfair. Why God is so unfair that he put the jiva in a poor body, in the family of a poor person, or in the family of rich person. Well, that's actually one's karma. One's deserved to get that. Person deserved to be born in a rich family or born in a poor family. So God is fair. Sometimes because of too much miseries, also makes a person becomes atheist, non-believers. Yeah, because they don't understand the science of karma, and one gets whatever types of body in the next life depending on one's karma. Yeah, everything is arranged systematically. Text 11. This is the last description of the about the transmigration of the body. Yeah. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called association of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied in the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatanto pyakrita manaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. In other words, the Bhakti yogis, those engaged in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. Yeah. So Krishna is very clear here that the non-devotees will remain bewildered by this process of the transmigration. So, and the non-devotees can see clearly, yeah, what is going on. Yeah, Ashyanti Jnana Chakshus. So only devotees can understand its clear, uh, his clear position. What is his position? The Lord's position. Sambandha Tattva. This is a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada mentioned even what is that Macmillan Company, their trade manager statistics, they have said that our Bhagavad Gita sale is increasing, other Bhagavad Gita decreasing. In America also, sorry, in America also, they are seriously studying how this movement is being spread so quickly. People ask me, how is it wonderfully increasing? Because there is no adulteration. That's all. And that's the fact. If you don't accept this Krishna consciousness movement, you will never be happy. This is fact. Everything is there. Social, political, economical, philosophical, religious, all perfect knowledge. So what is to be done next? And the Buddha said, Prasada. Prasada, Ija. Yeah. So up to this part of discussion, just to summarize again from the beginning, that Krishna explained how the material world is the perverted reflection of the real world, spiritual world, and the three modes of mental nature is nourishing this material world, and then the jiva's entanglement of the three modes of material nature can be cut down by asanga sastrena. Yeah, it acts or the weapon of detachment, and that start from hearing, associating with devotees as Prabhupada explained. And then Krishna explained about the transmigration of the jiva. Those who are non-devotees, they bewildered with this transmigration. And for devotee, because he has the gyan, knowledge, so through that gyan, he is pashyanti, means he can see this chain and not bewildered. Yeah, of course, originally all the jivas are pure, but due to the contact of the material nature, they becomes contaminated, just like water drops to the ground becomes adulterated. Uh, So up to this point, before we continue to the description of Krishna as the maintainer, and then the summary of the Vedanta Sutra, and knowing Krishna means to know everything, whether any question or comments. Okay, so we shall continue from text 12. So the topics of discussion 12 to 15, Krishna as maintainer, and then 16 to 18, summary of the Vedanta Sutra. And the last two verses, knowing Krishna means knowing everything. Yeah. Text number 12, Krishna is maintainer. Yeah. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their foodstuff, they set fire to start factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So one can understand that the light and the splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. Without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Without his mercy, there cannot be moon. And without his mercy, there cannot be fire. Without the help of the sun, moon, fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in conditioned soul. Yeah. Here, uh, this is how Krishna maintained us by giving us the sunlight, the moonlight, giving us fire. Even Krishna mentioned that he is the digestion fire in the body. Yeah. So Chanakya Pandit mentioned uh, there are two things that makes one happy. Yeah. If these two things is missing, one becomes unhappy. Yeah. First thing that he mentioned is if one is happy when he has no debt, when he has no debt, because a person who has a loan, who has debt, will be always in anxiety. Yeah, so he's unhappy. And then second, one is happy when he has a good digestion fire. Yeah, when a person has good digestion fire, he'll be happy. But if his digestion fire doesn't work properly, so he's unhappy. Yeah, doesn't matter how rich a person is, but if the digestion fire is not working properly in the body, he becomes unhappy because whatever he eats will become, in Ayurvedic term, we have this term amma. Amma means poison. Therefore, it is advised at night better to eat less because it simply creates ama. Yeah, ama means just garbage in the body, stock of poison, because it is not properly digested. At night, the fire of digestion it goes down. Yeah, the digestion fire follows the raising of the sun. When the sun starts setting, we should thinking also I have to reduce my food. Yeah, milk is good at night. Yeah, milk, little milk, and some light prasadam, but not much. Therefore, why a person normally feels weak or feels lazy to get up early in the morning when he eat too much at night? Because the digestion fire doesn't work properly, and then the whole energy just concentrated to try to digest the food that we consume at night, and the body becomes very, very fatigued. So the whole thing is actually a science. Everything is science, actually, systematically. So that's how Krishna tried to make us happy, yeah, by supplying the sun, the moon, and fire. That's how he maintains us. Mm. And next one, text number 13. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Yeah. All these planets are floating in space. And this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the supreme personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet, just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there's no possibility of the dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. Similarly, these planets, which are floating in the air, are actually held in the fist of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. So through his energy, Jagad Viparivartate, Maya Dyaksena Prakriti Suyati Sacharacharam, Hetunarena Kauntya Jagad Viparivartate. Yeah, Krishna explained this in the ninth chapter. So Jagad Viparivartate means the whole universe moves under Krishna's direction. Yeah. Maya Adyaksena Prakriti, this universe, Suyati Sacharacharam, yeah, moves according to Krishna's direction. So meaning Krishna, as he mentioned here, that he enters into each planet and moves the planet accordingly. Otherwise, if he is uh, not entering the planets, yeah, and then his energy is withdrawn by him, so the planet will collide to one another. Yeah. Prabhupada gives a nice analogy in his purport, just like a person holds dust. But if we throw it, so it just scattered on the sky. So the planet is held up by Krishna's hand and it moves according to Krishna's direction. Yeah. Otherwise, big calamity happens. That happens during the time of annihilation. Yeah. Krishna enters into each planet. Krishna becomes the moon, which nourishes the vegetables. Yeah. Some people they grow some vegetables uh, in the artificial way, yeah, inside the room. So that kind of vegetables actually, although it looks like vegetable, but you can observe actually it becomes tasteless. It is tasteless because there's no moon sign giving the nourishment there, giving the taste. It becomes tasteless. Text number 14. Yeah. I am the fire of digestion, yeah, in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuffs. Therefore, since he is helping the digestion of all kinds of food stuff. The living entity is not independent in the eating process unless the Supreme Lord helps him in digesting. There's no possibility of eating. He thus produces and digests food stuff, and by his grace we are enjoying life. In the Vedanta Sutra 1.2.27, this is also confirmed. Sabdadibhyo ta pratistanacha. The Lord is situated within sound and within the body, within the air, and even within the stomach as the digestive force. There are four kinds of foodstuffs. Some are drunk, some are chewed, some are licked up, and some are sucked. And he is the digestive force for all of them. Yeah. So this is another great thing that Krishna does for us. He's creating also, nourishing the food, yeah, by becoming moon, and then he gives us the digestion fire. Yeah. So as Srila Prabhupada mentioned that even in the matter of eating, we are not at all independent. So we are totally subordinate upon Krishna, subordinate to Krishna in all aspects. We cannot be independent. Although we are given independency, but we are not at all independent. Not even for my breathing, because Krishna is the life air, which coming out in and out. Not even in the eating also. Yeah. And then text number 15. This is the famous sloka. Yeah. I am sitting in everyone's heart. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Matasmritir Gyanam Apohanam, Krishna mentioned. Apohanam, even forgetfulness is coming from Krishna. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So up to this point, when Krishna mentioned that he's situated in everyone's heart, from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So he maintains the living entity like in that way, you know. And then he mentioned Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham. So from all the Vedas, he has to be known because he's the compiler of the Veda. That's how the next discussion is actually the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. Yeah, because he mentioned here that Vedanta Krit, he's the compiler of Veda. Yeah. So now if we analyze this, okay, Krishna is the Paramatma who enters into everyone's heart. That's how he maintained us. And then from him, remembrance and knowledge comes. That's also helping us. But what about apohana or forgetfulness? How forgetfulness help the living entities happy? Okay, if he supply food, he becomes the moon, he becomes the sun, supplying light, he becomes the digestion fire. That's help the living entity. But how forgetfulness help the living entities to be happy? Who would like to comment on this? Yes, Amol said Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, as a living entity, we are going to do some mistakes, and because we will do the mistakes, we should not be in a lamentation stage all the time. That is the reason why forgetfulness help us, and he provides that particular forgetfulness to us, that please ensure that mistakes are bound to happen, and you correct it,
Yeah,
and you
thank you.
heal out of
Yeah.
that.
Yes, very nice answer. Thank you so much. And in the chat section also, we see some devotees like Prabhu forgetting our past lives. That's very important. Yeah. and get a fresh start in its life. Yeah, Mataji, nowadays such Mataji, part of healing. That's true. Yeah, that's actually forgetfulness is a great boon from Lord Krishna, a great mercy from Lord Krishna. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada in a lecture he mentioned that why forgetfulness is very very important. Yeah, of course, most of us we don't want to forget something, especially when we have great struggle to memorize the sloka for our sloka test. But why Krishna is giving us forgetfulness? Because Krishna loves us. Yeah, Prabhupada said, imagine if you remember that you are Lord Brahma in one time, in one lifetime, in a certain lifetime, and then now you become a dog, for example. How miserable is your life? You will lament so much. Yeah, you will lament so much. So forgetting our past lives is a great boon. Yeah, and get a fresh start in each life. Yes, that's true. So of course, forgetfulness can be seen from different angle. Yeah, from different angle. Yeah, but ultimately that's Krishna's mercy. That's how Krishna expressed his love to us. And also, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, we cannot really enjoy material life mm, uh, uh, because the living entity wants to forget Krishna. The living entity wants to forget Krishna, and Krishna fulfills that desire that the living entity wanted to forget Krishna. Unless we forget Krishna, we cannot really enjoy material life. So, in the case of enjoying the material life, Krishna is allowing us by giving us forgetfulness. Otherwise, we cannot really enjoy our material life. Just like when Indra got cursed, he became a pig. You know, he became a pig, and then he's enjoying with his family. Yeah, his pig wife and pig children. Yeah, he was enjoying so much because he was unconscious that he actually Indra until Lord Brahma came and remind him, okay, Indra, it's time for you to go back to heaven and become the king of heaven again. Your punishment is over. But when he gets the body of a pig, he totally forget that he was Indra. Yeah. Otherwise, he cannot enjoy that pig life. So it is described that Indra, when he was in the body of a pig, he was enjoying so much, eating stool, live in the dirty place. That's the enjoyment of the pig. Yeah. Okay. So these are the way how Krishna maintains the living entity. Yeah. Purport: the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is the witness to all his work. Upadrasta Mantacha Bhakta Bhakta Maheshwara. Krishna also mentioned that in the 13th chapter. Is the Upadrasta, means the seer, and Anumanta means the sanctioner. Yeah. So how he does that? By residing in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Yeah. Sarvasya Chaham Hridisani Vishnu. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deed. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different creative results. Yeah. So this verse is talking about Krishna as Paramatma, and Krishna as the compiler and the knower of the Vedas, and he is to be known in the Vedas. Yeah. And then now, this is a lecture from Srila Prabhupada. A small dog, it has not opened the eyes, but still immediately after birth, it is seeking the nipples of the mother. So where from the knowledge comes? From his within, and that is from God. The other day I explained Vedas means just like this dictaphone machine is manufactured along with one literature is also compiled. So customers they are given the delivery of the machine as well as the literature how to use it. That is the Vedas. Therefore, Krishna says that Vedanta Krit, I am the compiler of the Vedas. Because if he does not give the literature, then how he will use the machine? The manufacturer of the machine, he knows how to use it, what for it is, how to manipulate it. Everything is there. Yeah. Just like we're buying any electronic product, yeah, like cell phone or television or bike, yeah, motorbike, like that. So there's always this booklet to guide how to use this button is for this for that. So similarly, the Vedas is compiled by the Lord because He compiled the material universe, and then the Vedas meant for our guidance on how to act uh, in the material universe, in the material world. Yeah, how to act. Otherwise, if we are using our own whims to act, then uh, put us into trouble. Just like if we don't know how to operate, let's say like a motorbike, when we just buy it new, you know, if we don't know, then we just breaking it up, breaking the bike. So the Vedas is compiled for our own happiness. Yeah. Text number 16. This is 16 to 18, the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So this is the two different classes of living entities, yeah, the fallible and the infallible. The living entities are eternally separated parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta. The Sanskrit words given here, Ksara Sarvani Bhutani. There is Ksara, then there is Aksara. Yeah. Meant, Ksara Sarvani Bhutani mean that they are fallible. Those who are in oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation. Of course, in this spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation. But since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, is the source of all emanation, that conception is explained. Yeah, two classes of living entities. The fallible means the non-devotees, the conditioned souls, and the infallible, the liberated soul. Yeah, Sara and Apsara. Yeah, Sara means the fallible, the entangled jivas. Text number 17. Besides these two, there is the great living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. The Upanishadic verse runs as follows: Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Purport is that amongst all living entities, both conditioned and liberated, there is one supreme living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to different works. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. A wise man who can understand him is eligible to attain perfect peace, not others. Yeah. So the previous one explaining about two types of jivas, and this one explaining about above these two types of jivas, there is super soul. Yeah, super soul, Krishna, the controller, was being. Text number 18, because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. No one can surpass the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna, neither in the condition, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. He is therefore the greatest of personalities. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the supreme personality of Godhead are individuals. The difference is that the living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the supreme personality of God. So up to this point, these three verses summarize the Vedanta Sutra. Yeah. So what is the summary of the Vedanta Sutra? There are jivas, the jiva tattva, and then there is Vishnu tattva, Krishna. Yeah. And then amongst the jivas, two types of jivas. Yeah. The ksara and aksara, the conditioned and liberated. And then Krishna, being the super soul, he's the topmost person, and no one can surpass him. No jivas can be equal or surpass. That's why he's known as the Asama Urdhva. Asama Urdhva means no one can equal or even higher. Even the liberated person cannot be equal with Krishna. For example, Arjun is a pure devotee, a great devotee of Krishna. We see in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna uh, informed Arjun that yes, what is that? Imam was what yogam, that verse, Proktawan aham avyayam. We was one manawe praha manur ikshvakave praha. So Krishna says that I already explained this science to the sun god. Yeah, we was one. And then Arjuna is asking, how is it possible? You explain this knowledge to the sun god by seeing your age, the difference of your age. So sun god is much more senior. And then Krishna says that, well, Arjun, both you and me in the past, we already we take we incarnate together in many lifetimes. But I remember all that happened, and you forget all this. And Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport to that verse in the fourth chapter. Prabhupada says that this is the difference between the jiva and Krishna. Doesn't matter how great a jiva is, still cannot be on the equal level to the Lord. Yeah. So that's the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. Yeah. The jiva tattva and Krishna tattva, Vishnu tattva. Yeah. The jiva will be always subordinate to Krishna. Therefore, how the Vedanta Sutra start? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Yeah. To inquire about the absolute truth. Yeah. To inquire about the jiva tattva, about Krishna tattva, and Sambandha tattva, or relationship with Krishna. And then it goes to Abhidya and Prayojana. But everything starts from Brahma Jigyasa. Understand that Aham Brahmasmi, we are not the body. Yeah, Krishna is the greatest personality. And then last two verses. Yeah. Knowing Krishna means knowing everything. Yeah. Text number 19. Whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth. But the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step. And still, there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the supreme absolute truth and the living entities to be one and the same. The word bhajati is very significant. In many places, the word bhajati is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculation for so many years and and lives is a useless waste of time. Yeah, Sama eva kevala. Dharma swanustita pumsam visvachana tata suyaha. Not padaye jadira tim sama eva kevala. Simply wasting of time. Yeah. Now, utpajade rati means any activities which is not um, invoking or developing. Yeah, pajati means to give rise, to rise up to Krishna. Yeah, to give attraction to Krishna, to bring attraction to Krishna is simply a waste of time. Samaya keval. So similarly, also studying of the Vedas. If one simply goes on speculating, then he will not reach to that level of understanding that yes, ultimately we have to surrender to Krishna. Then all his knowledge is just useless. Mm. Samprapte sanihite kale nahi nahi raksate dukkhin karani. Yeah. Sankaracharya said, Bhaje Govinda, Bhaje Govinda, Bhaje Govinda, Mudhamati. All this knowledge, all these grammars, he said, nahi nahi raksate. They cannot protect you. They cannot give you liberation. The only way is that Bhaja Govinda, yeah, to worship Govinda. So in that sense, actually worshiping Krishna is worshiping Krishna. Knowing Krishna means worshiping Krishna, and that's complete knowledge. Because if that aspect is missing, then any other thing is becomes useless. Yeah. Okay. The last verse. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Uh, Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavor will know perfection. The Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures. And one should understand this as it is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, one can become freed from all contamination of the modes of material nature. Devotional service is a process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot exist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord Himself are one and the same because they are spiritual. Devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Lord. Yeah. So ultimately, again, toward the end of the chapter, devotional service is clearly explained. Yeah, it's clearly explained. Like in the chapter 14, chapter 13, and everywhere actually, it's clearly explained. Yeah, devotional service. Because Bhagavad Gita is known as the Yoga Sastra. Yeah, Yoga Sastra means that literature which is connected with yoga, linking process to the Supreme Lord. Okay, so I just want to summarize again the chapter that Krishna here explaining how to get out of the material entanglement, and then he maintains the living entity. That's the expression of his love by supplying different things like sunlight, moonlight, fire, yeah, etc. And then Krishna explained about the Vedanta Sutra in brief, and then he concludes by saying, if one knows him, that means he's in full knowledge. That means he knows everything. Yeah, he knows everything, because as we see also, uh, the description of the objects of knowledge in the chapter 13. Yeah, in chapter 13, Krishna explained from text 8 to 12. There are 20 items of knowledge, and amongst them, uh, devotional service, pure devotional service is most important, because, as Krishna mentioned, as Srila Prabhupada explained, that if this one is missing, the other 19 items of knowledge is useless. That means when we know Krishna, that means we know everything. But if we know so many things, but we miss Krishna, then it becomes useless. Okay? So that's knowledge about Krishna. Yeah, the Purushottama Yoga, yoga of the Supreme Person. All right. So I thank you very much for attending our today's class. Hare Krishna. So I want to inform, you can stop the recording.